Okay, welcome to a couple of videos which I said I'd make to help the students with ISYS 110. I'm just going to go through one of the questions or the lab exercises from the back of each chapter. So today we're going to explain or show you how to do the comparative median income for a four-person family, and that's at the end of chapter 1, and it's question 3. So the first thing that it asks us to do is to find the workbook. So we're going to go and find it. And it's just on a USB drive. And it's called Family Income. Okay, so here's the file. It now asks us to perform a spell check. Okay, and correct any misspelled words. So we go into the Review tab and we do a spell check. All these first suggestions I'm assuming are right. And then we click OK. So the next question, or next part of the question, is that it asks us to change or edit the title in cell A1. So we've gone into cell A1 here, and it wants us to change it to a capital letter for each of the words here, with the exception of for and by, and it wants us to remove the comma. Once that's done, we can push Tab or Enter. It now wants us to merge and center these cells, and it's A through to F, it looks like. A through to F, yep. So we go back to the Home tab, and we click Center and Merge. It wants us to bold it. Now it wants us to insert a row between, either side of the current cell 1 or row 1. So we just select cell 1 and select Insert, and we do the same on number 3, Insert. It now wants us to center this row here. We click Center because we're not centering and merging the cell, we're just centering the information that's in those cells. And it wants us to adjust the column width of column A so that everything can be seen. So there's a few ways, as was discussed in class, we can do this. We can either change the column width, or we can use the auto fit just by double clicking. Okay, now it wants us to right align cells B5 through to D56. So B5, we drag it all the way down through to D56, and we select right align. It also wants us to change the formatting from current, or from what it currently is, which is general, to accounting. So we go up here and we change it to accounting. And it wants us to change it to 0 decimal places. So we just decrease the amount of decimal places. And it also suggests for us to auto fit D. As you can see, it's not fitting in correctly. So auto fit, excellent. One thing I have noticed is that this row here should have also been underlined, so I apologize for that. So we just underline it. Okay, the next part is to add a new heading into E4, and it wants us to call that average. And it wants us to underline that as well. Okay. It now wants us to put a function in, which is called average, and it wants us to average B5 through to D5. Okay, so we go to the function option and select average. Average. And it's automatically here selected the columns. Just double check that they're correct. In this case they are. And hit enter. It now asks us to copy the formula to the cells all the way down through E, from E6 to E56. So we're just going to use the fill handle and drag that down. Okay, now it wants us to add a new heading called percentage change. Again, center it and underline it. And instead of using a function, it wants us to type in a formula. And this formula is equals B5 minus D5 divided by D5. We can just double check that that is correct because it's color coded the information in the formula bar up here. That looks fine to me. Hit enter, and there we go. Now you'll notice that the format here is still accounting, and it wants us to change that to percentage, and it wants it at 2 decimal places. So that's already 2 decimal places. So that's good. Now it wants us to use the fill handle and drag it all down through to 56. Okay, so we're starting to see it's starting to come together now. It's good. It also asks us to auto fit these columns. It now asks us to add font and fill colors to the worksheet as we like. And it also wants us to locate the states with the highest and lowest change, and then surround those with a thick border. Okay, so I'm not going to do anything fancy here. I'm just going to select the whole thing. Okay, and I'm just going to add a color. Add blue. The data itself, I might choose a different color, maybe something lighter. Maybe that. Okay, so that's some fill colors added. Okay, and now we want to select the lowest change. That looks like it's the lowest here, negative 12%. Yep. And then we add a thick border. And again with the highest, I think I saw a 12% somewhere. There we go, positive 12%. And again, thick border. Alright, now it asks us to enter our name and date on a separate row, just after the last line. Okay, so we just put in our name, and in the row below we put in the month, or the date. Okay, so today is the 7th of August. Okay, and it wants us to change the format. There's a few ways we can do that. We can either go up here and change the date to long or short date, or we can change the format cell here, and we've got more options. Now the option it wants us to change it to is day, month, year, like that, with the month in letters. Click OK, and that's changed. It now tells us to move back to cell A1 and to save the data. So I'm just going to save the workbook. I'll save it in a different file, and I'll call this, just add movie on the end. That's probably the best thing. We'll save that. Okay, and now it wants us to preview the workbook. So we just go to print preview. That looks fine. One problem, however, is it's not all on one page, which it wants us to do. So we just go to page layout. You can see here it's fitting off the page. So we go to page layout and change this to one page and one page. It'll now fit all on one page. That's excellent. Now, strangely enough, it wants us to change the orientation to landscape, so we'll do that as well. Not a very useful option, but that's what we have to do. So again, save it, and we'll go to print preview, make sure that's right. Excellent. Okay, and that's it for the first video, so I hope this has helped you out. I'll be putting another video up very shortly.